Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel Yager, and today I have a very exciting guest with me, Bill Schmarzo, who is truly a fantastic guy. I'm so excited. He's a big data expert. I would like to now ask him to tell us a bit about yourself, Bill.
Sure, Rachel. I'm currently the Chief Innovation Officer at Hitachi Vantara, which is the digital arm of Hitachi. But I've always thought of myself as a teacher. I think throughout my entire life, I've always had opportunities and sought opportunities to teach. So while I've been, fully employed for 40 some years in the data and analytics space, I've always sought out opportunities to share with others that I've done. So I'm an executive fellow at the University of San Francisco. I'm an honorary professor at the National University of Ireland-Galway. But I've always, in other situations and events and such, I've always looked for opportunities to teach. I think teaching is such a wonderful experience because it does two things. One, in order to be able to communicate something effectively, you really have to know it, right? I love the phrase, if I had more time, I'd write you a shorter letter, because you really have to understand something to be able to teach it. But number two, students are not afraid to raise their hand and say, I don't get it, right? Tom Hanks in the movie Big, I don't get it. And it's that moment where they don't get it. It's not their fault they don't get it. It's your fault as a teacher that you haven't understood them. So for me, yeah, I've got jobs. I've had a lot of interesting jobs, really interesting career, I think, some successes, some dramatic failures, but I've always been a teacher at heart.
So, Bill, you really, you caught me by surprise, because I would think that you would refer yourself as the big innovation officer that you are, and you would refer yourself with like CTO and all the titles and all the work. So you caught me by surprise, and I want to ask you. So, what motivates you? Why are you working with all this? And I know that you talk about teaching. It's really interesting. So tell me, why are you doing all this? Yeah.
Well, I think I'm an innovator at heart. And I believe that innovation comes from when you blend lots of different perspectives together. I actually think conflict is good. I think having different perspectives is how you create new things. If everybody in the room thinks the same way, you're not going to create anything new, right? It's only when you have that catalyst of conflict that innovation occurs. By teaching, by doing what I do, so not only do I spend a lot of my time working with customers, the nature of my job is to spend a lot of time with customers who have different perspectives and views, but I spend time with students who have different perspectives and views. And students sometimes know what they don't know. So they're not afraid to ask what would seem to be, a very obvious question that and sometimes becomes very provocative. I mean, I'll give you a real world example. One of the most powerful moments that it's occurred in my data career was when you're doing a research project at the University of San Francisco around the value of data. And the value of data has always been one of these things. It's a mission for me. Like, what does it mean to understand what the value of data is? And so we decided at University of San Francisco, I had access to all these really brilliant, smart, and free resources that we were going to go do some research. And so we're all doing some research, and I'm trying to figure out, how can these really bright, fresh minds help me to get a different view on the value of data? And one of my researchers, what she said, she goes, Professor Schmarzo, I have this kind of bizarre question. I said, I'm sorry, I don't get it. But she goes, data is not like any other asset we have. I mean, it never wears out, it never depletes, and it can be used over and over and over again at zero marginal cost. Is that really an asset? And we were thinking, oh my gosh, she's right. Right? Data is not like an asset you think about from an accounting perspective. And I was so fixated on this accounting mindset, the balance sheet, data had to stick into a balance sheet somewhere. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's not an accounting conversation. It's not a value in exchange conversation. It's a value in use conversation. It's an economics conversation. And everything I knew about data and analytics flipped because of her question. She goes, she just asked a very simple question that I had been too blind to think of for 30 some years, that she basically, knocked across all the crust in my eyes so I could see the light.
Wow. And Bill, I really love your energy and your even your background. I love right, right. And you're doing so much like all this like serious work, and wherever I see a post from you, I say, how can this guy do this way? Like he is so full of energy. Tell us a bit about your energy secret. Can you share?
Well, my energy comes from my mom. My mom used to always say, you get a choice. You can be upbeat about life or you can be downbeat about life. My mom says, I pick up. So should you. And so I've always been a glasses half full kind of person. I see opportunities where others see despair. Yeah, we all have tough moments, but I try to own them. I try not to blame others for my situation. And I think by owning that, by not blaming others and taking responsibility, I give myself control, right? I control my future. And that makes me excited. It means I can do anything I want. I'm in control of my future. And so I wake up in the morning because I love what I do. I love working with customers. They're brilliant. They have all kinds of great perspectives. And if you just, 2 ears and 1 mouth, you listen, you learn a lot. I love working with students, same sort of thing. And I am so fortunate. I'm so honored that I have the ability to sit between both really smart customers that I've got and really smart students, and they're constantly teaching me new things. I just have to learn to listen, and I have to be willing to let things go that I think are the right things and be willing to learn new things. And if you love to learn, well, life is a great place to be because we're getting taught lessons every day.
Really, yeah. I think that we are all feeling that way, during, we are still under, well, at least for New York City. And I think on your end too, right? It's under the lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown. Now, what advice would you give to someone, a professional wanting to achieve what you have done in data analytics, big data, a young professional or a young student? What advice would you give?
I think the most important bit of advice is well, maybe there's 2 pieces. One, seek to continuously learn. Take advantage of all learning opportunities. Be fearless in chasing those opportunities. When Professor Sadawe, Muwafa Sadawe at University of San Francisco first approached me about co-teaching with him at University of San Francisco, my first response was, wow, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of responsibility. There was 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't do this, 1,000 reasons why it wasn't going to work out. But there was one reason that I knew it was going to work. That's because Professor Sadawe was a special man. And he reached out to me, and I found that one reason, and I was fearless, and I did it. And it ended up being one of these landmark points in my life where I realized, wow, I really like this. So continuously seek to learn. Be fearless about going forward and taking advantage of opportunities, and be willing to unlearn. Be willing to throw aside something you thought was gospel and learn something new. When you're climbing a ladder, for example, at some point in time, you have to let go of that rung below you. Otherwise, you're never going to advance. And so sometimes you let go of that rung, you only have one hand holding on. That's okay. Be fearless. Keep climbing.
Wow. I'm really so excited to have you, right, to give an expert lecture on big data on the web, and we'll be continuing our conversation, and I'd like to get your expert opinion in the next session on big data, and very interesting talk. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Rachel.
See you later.
Okay, cheers.